If this becomes long, forgive me, but it's a very important video. That's why I decided to shoot a video after so long with me not shooting at all, actually. It's crazy. So, in the beginning of March, I decided to move back home because of financial reasons. Like there was a little bit too much constraints on my part because I was renting an apartment and I was renting a shop space and I had to travel to the shop space. So my monthly costs were around 13,000. These were just costs for the apartment, for the shop, and the traveling. I'm not talking about food and other bills. So I decided to move back home, which is in Pinoni. Of course, I'm still renting a shop. It's a different shop. It's a cheaper shop, around the same size, but it's much cheaper. And I still have to travel to the shop. However, I don't pay rent. My monthly costs have now decreased all the way to 6,500 to 7,000. And the reason the costs are not actually uniform is because sometimes I travel to the gym. Okay, well, 6 days a week I travel to the gym, then to the shop. Sometimes it's cheaper to travel to the gym, sometimes it's not. It just depends on the demand on that day because I request going there. I don't use taxis. And ever since moving back, I've realized some very important pointers or things that I decided that I should share with other people. These are advantages. And I think the title of the video will be Why You Should Move Back Home. Yeah. Yeah, that should be the title of the video. Why you should move back home if especially you are an entrepreneur. But I think this is also important even for a person who has a normal job, 9 to 5, but they don't earn anything over 10,000 rands a month. So if you are an entrepreneur or you are working a normal job, if you don't earn over 10,000 rands a month, I think it will be a great idea for you to move back home, provided of course you have that privilege. Because mind you, having a home to move back to, it's an advantage. It's a privilege that for a long time personally I didn't have, and many people also don't have. So if you don't have that privilege of moving back home, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but if you do have that privilege, you should watch this video. Even if you don't have the privilege of moving back home, you could watch this video so that you can share with your friends or other family members who may have a home that they can go back to. Another thing is that if you have a home to move back to and it's not toxic, that's another privilege because you could move back home, but moving back home for you is just going to mentally fuck you up. So you don't want that. And yeah, we are starting this video, you are watching this video with those caveats in mind. So the first thing that I noticed when I moved back home is going back to the costs. I am saving a whole lot more money. I've written down some notes on my computer screen so that if I forget anything, I do mention it. But don't mind me, I'll be drinking my tea, I'll be smoking my hookah. It's not yet on. So the first thing that I noticed is that uh, my costs are much lower. So I'm able to save up a little bit more money. I'm able to actually do a lot more with the money that I get to make. For a very long time, I wanted to have myself a project car, and I just never afforded it because every time that I thought about buying it, especially since I was a tattoo artist, every time I thought about buying a project car, I realized that I can buy the project car, but the project car will probably be parked for 5 to 6 years. And that's obviously not something that I wanted. That's not something that you would want. So since moving back home, I've realized that you know what, I'm actually able to buy myself a project car that I can build, and I'll be able to finish building that car in not so long time. Yeah. So the car I bought myself is a Jetta 2 VW Jetta 2 Coupe. I'll be building up that car over the next year or two. I've decided to give myself that amount of time. The other thing that I noticed within saving costs is that it is allowing me to reinvest into my business, albeit this business that I'm doing, which is a tattoo business, it's something that I'm realizing that I'm getting to a stage of having a burnout. I really don't want to do this business anymore, but I do it because it pays the bills. And since I'm a creative person, it does feel a bit fun a lot of the times when I do the work. But I'm getting a burnout, and I'm also getting tired of a certain trend that I don't like. The trend with this business is that it's very seasonal, and I don't know if this is everybody's experience, but for the most part, many people do share that experience. In winter, the business becomes very slow, and I'm not comfortable with that because in winter, I have to struggle to survive. I pay my bills. After paying my bills, I provide the little that I can in that winter season for my child. And then otherwise, for myself, I can't really do much. And that's the problem I have. In winter, the business is too slow. So moving back home has allowed me to reinvest into more marketing on the business. So the business is not very, very slow now that it's winter, but I still do feel the slowness of winter as usual. So with that in mind, I'll talk about pivoting to another business. I think I wrote this in one of the notes here. The second thing is that there's a financial cushion, man. The pressure for me to have money is much decreased because when I was in Joburg renting my shop, renting my apartment, and I had to travel, I was always under pressure. If it's mid month, like the 15th of the month, and I have not made at least three quarters of the rent for both the apartment and the shop, I was heavily under pressure. And after a long time of not feeling anxiety, I was in an anxiety state for most of the time I was in Joburg. Since I got the shop in Joburg, I was in a state of anxiety almost always. The only time I would be relaxed is probably when I'm at the gym or when I'm at sleep. But sometimes at the gym, I would also feel that anxiety creeping back in, creeping, creeping back in. So, oh, eh, the smoke is getting to the camera. Pardon me for that. This is an unhealthy habit. I'll let it go one day. So yeah, the financial pressure that I'm feeling is much lower. So there's a financial cushion with moving back home. So if you move back home, you have that yourself. Even if you are a person who's working, if the job that you are working at is close enough to home that you can travel there, or it's close enough to work that you can actually save up 2,000 to 3,000 every month to buy yourself a second-hand car. And I recommend a second-hand car, unless of course you're getting paid 15 upwards, then you can get a new car. Financed, of course, is the best option for most South Africans, and I would say for most people actually all over the world. If it is close enough for you to travel to work, move back home because you will feel less financial pressure. Believe me when I say that. And it gives you a longer runway for you to save money. I'm using an app called Stash for saving money. Before I wanted to save money, but I couldn't save money because every time I've got like 1,000 rand in my savings, I use that money because I need to use it. Not that I want to, but I need to use that money, which is it's quite unfortunate. Now, the other thing, of course, that I realized about moving back home is the support system. You get a bit of a support system if you, especially if you don't come from a toxic home. Again, I repeat, this is emotional support, and for me, and my family is not like super big. It's not a big family, but the people that are there, which is my younger brothers, it's my mother as well. Me and my younger brother, we have our conflicts just like any other siblings have. But in tough times, I'm able to get a bit of emotional support from him. From my mother, I'm able to get a bit of emotional support. And for a long time, I didn't know that I need that. There's a difference between not thinking that I need the emotional support and not knowing that I need the support. I didn't know that I need the emotional support. And once I started getting it, where people just tell me, especially family, they tell me, like, listen, you've grown from where you started to where you are. You've actually grown quite a bit. And you shouldn't give up. Just hang in there, keep hustling. Those words, like, they are not much. You know that they are not much when you are being told those things. But it does count a little bit, and I've been very grateful for that. Grateful, like very grateful for it. So it's been a good thing for me. The emotional support is good. And the other thing, this one is the nicest one. When you are staying alone in your apartment, which was the case with me, when you get home, most people will know, unless you make phone calls to friends and whoever, you don't talk to anyone until the next day. The only person you get to talk to is yourself. If you don't cook or you don't order food, which ordering food gets exhausting, if you don't cook on that day, you are not eating unless you cook. You have to cook. After cooking, your apartment is dirty unless you clean it. So moving back home allows you the leeway to be a little bit lazy sometimes. You don't have to cook every day. You don't have to do dishes every day. You don't have to do all the house chores every single day. And the times that you do it, obviously, you're not feeling like you are forced to do it because you have no other choice or no one else to do it for you. So that one is it's a flex for me. That one is a flex. I really am enjoying that one, and it goes into the other thing that I have noticed. These go in no particular order. Actually, there's no numbers to this. Like not number one. I'm tired of doing YouTube videos like that. If that's the type of style that you enjoyed, unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be still doing that except for business ideas. Mental health. Your mental health becomes better when you move back home. Your mental health becomes way better when you move back home. You have reduced stress. The only other things that can stress you probably is based on you and your ambition. Because I'm experiencing that with the business that I'm running, the kind of financial positioning I want to see myself in the next 10 years will not be possible with this business. Maybe a quarter way there, but not even halfway there. So obviously now I just have stress of how do I rebuild myself? How do I pivot the business? What do I do? Wara wara. But stress as in the things that come with the finances of living alone and doing everything by yourself. The stress that comes with that is greatly reduced. So I've experienced that. And then I don't have a very much work-life balance for myself, but at least now I actually can afford to do things for fun. When I was staying in Joburg, man, I was not doing anything fun because there was no money for it. Okay. And mind you, the kind of money I make in this business, I don't fall under what most people make in the country. If there's a top 10%, I think I fall within the top 10% or the top 5% of earners in the country. I do earn really good money. Like there's people who have jobs that they earn the kind of money that I earn and they live very comfortably and they're very happy with those salaries. That's the kind of money I make. I'm not going to tell you how much exactly I make. In winter, I make a lot less though, but it's still a comfortable amount. The only difference with me is that I have to pay bigger bills, I think. And this is not 100% fact. I think I just have to pay a lot more bills. Like it's the shop, it's supplies, it's traveling to the shop, it's marketing. We have not spoken anything personal there. So yeah, now that I only just pay for traveling to the shop expenses and personal expenses like apartment, I don't pay rent anymore. Once in a while, I am able to go out, have an expensive meal there by carnival or do something fun, take a girl out and have fun with her, come back home. I'm happy, I'm good. Oh, the pipe was out. So there's a bit more work life balance now. In fact, I think I can, well, after winter, during spring, I can do a lot more of my hobbies. And I'm actually very happy about that. Uh, so with moving back home, the other thing that is great is that the risk that you are taking in running your business, especially now I'm really speaking to entrepreneurs, the risks that you have to take in your business, they you occur or you occur is whole. You get less risks financially because now you can afford to do more in your business. I can afford to spend more in marketing. In the past 3 months, I've spent close to 18,000 rands on Facebook ads. And of course, I've made back that money. And with moving back home in March, which was the first month that I moved back here, I used to think that the business that I'm running doesn't do so well in Benoni, but obviously it was not a location thing, it was a marketing thing. Because moving back to Benoni allowed me to spend more money on marketing. And ironically enough, well, I guess it's not an irony because the more you invest in marketing, the better business does. But in March, I made way more money than I have ever made in the tattoo business in any given month ever since I started. And we are going for 5 years now. So it was less risky for me to spend my money on marketing because I'm okay with the marketing paying off over a longer period of time because I can afford to do so. I don't have so many big bills. So that's been the advantages of me moving back home. And what I'm also realizing that is if if I was to decide to say stop doing this business and pivot into something else because I really want to pivot into something else, it will be a bit easier because I'm not too worried about paying bills. If I decide to close the shop and maybe work on house calls or allow people to come to the yard to work, which I don't really like, that's why I have a shop. Maybe I can do house calls just so I can be able to survive while I think or pivot onto something else. It's easier. Thinking about doing that now for me is easier. I'm not too worried about doing it anymore. So that's a big advantage. I'm not sure what I will go into, but I've gained some serious passion in the automotive industry and I do things in the automotive space for fun. And I'm not sure if I want to go into business in the automotive because once I turn a hobby into a business, 9 times out of 10 for many people, the stress comes and then you lose the hobby for it. And then now it's just a business. But I'll take my time with doing it. And once I know exactly what I want to do in the automotive industry, whether it's to sell parts, spares, or to sell cars, or to talk about cars, which I do talk about cars on another channel with a friend of mine, whether to buy old cars, restore them, and sell them, I'll see it really. And I'm not too worried about that anymore because my bills are not too high, man. It doesn't feel way too risky. So that's been the advantage with moving back home. And if you are thinking of moving back home and you needed maybe some reasons to move back home, you might have found one or two in this video. And if you found one or two in this video, that's more than enough for you to move back home. So don't worry what people are going to think about you moving back home. And if if you're a guy and you have a girlfriend or you have a fiance or wife or something like that, moving back home might be a bit uncomfortable because it comes with some complications. Some of the complications become privacy, especially if you moving back home means that you live within a house with your family. But Islamic people do that. They find a balance, they find a way. So learn what they do. Or build a back room. If you don't have a back room, build a back room and you will have your privacy. The other complication probably is what tends to happen with women. I'm not, I don't know if it's all women, but when you move back home, she starts feeling as though you're downgrading. And of course, you are actually downgrading. And the respect also wanes a little bit. You will notice that. You will definitely notice that unless your woman really is understanding. But for the most part, I don't know if all women are understanding. Maybe 2 out of 10. And if your woman is one of those 2 out of 10, man, you are lucky. You should cherish that. But move back home so that you can rebuild yourself. And she should understand that. Explain it to her. If she is not understanding of that, then it gives your relationship problems. But you know, and you have, and you like you're convicted in you moving back home. Do it. And if it's at the risk of the relationship, unfortunately, it just means that relationship was not meant to last long, because anything that begins has to end. And this is also applicable to your life. Your life began and it will also end. So you don't want to live that life before it ends. You are miserable. So if moving back home will bring you more peace and more of an ability for you to rebuild yourself, it's a great idea to move back home. So yeah, do that. Move back home. Ah, see you in the next video. I don't know when.